You can draw this in Procreate. I'm going to show you how you can create a moody scene with just 2 colors. You might have seen this trend on TikTok or Instagram, and I just love these results of these 2-tone coloring pages. So during this tutorial, we are going to create our own little coloring page, our own illustration. I will guide you through all the steps, and then we will color it with just 2 hues. The canvas we're working on is 2,500 pixels by 2,500 pixels, and I have left a color palette with color suggestions down in the description, and I have also left my line art in case you want to use that as a reference. So then if you're ready, let's get started. Alright, let's start out with a sketch. For sketching, I'd like to use the Bruni brush, which is in the pencils section, and for the color you can just choose black. Now the opacity of the brush should be at 100%, and I have my size set to 25%. And then let's start off by creating an oval here at the bottom. You can hold your pen in place for a perfectly smooth oval. Next, I'd like to turn on the symmetry tool so we can make a symmetrical drawing. So let's go to the wrench, then to canvas, then turn on the drawing guide, then go to edit drawing guide, and then to symmetry. Now we can create some symmetrical parts because when we draw on the left side, whatever we draw, it'll also show up on the right side. So let's tap the check mark, and now let's draw a window. Let's create a line here. Hold your pen in place. You can also tap on the screen, hold your finger on the screen for a perfectly vertical line. Same goes for horizontal lines. So I'll just make a square here, and it's nicely centered this way. So we have a square, a little frame with an oval underneath. Now I'd like to create a line on top of this. This will be for the curtain. So a line like this. And then the curtains will hang like this. Going down here and here. And there will be like a little bow tie thingy, and here you can make like a circle at the end, and you can make it a bit like wobbly here. We'll have some folds, but we can refine that later. Then at the top here, let's create a curve like this, and then another one underneath, and another one. So this will be the top of the window. And we can make a line going down here and also here. Right, you can also just hold your pen in place, of course. Now let's also add some volume here to like the plateau. I can see the oval is not exactly centered, but that's not a problem. Now we can tap and hold the eraser to make it switch to our Bruni brush, and then we can erase some parts here. Tidy this up a little bit. You won't see that window through the curtains, of course, and we can tidy this up a bit. Doesn't have to be super tidy, but just so that it's easier to understand your own sketch. Next, let's turn off a drawing assist on this layer so that symmetry is not turned on anymore. So we'll tap it, turn off drawing assist, and then we'll continue sketching with our brush. And I also see that I forgot this little part, and we can use the eraser to get rid of this. This is like a cross here. Then for our cat, let's create an oval here. And another oval on top. So we have a big oval for the body and another oval on top for the head. And this is where its thick tail will be. Then let's add ears, like these triangles at the top. And we can curve the body a little bit. create a curve like this, and then here we have its front leg, very simple. And it'll have these whiskers. And you can use the eraser to get rid of this line. Just tidy everything up a little bit. Let's make the brush a bit bigger, like 65%. And just tidy it up like this. Doesn't have to be like super tidy, as long as you can read your sketch better for when we start creating the line art. All right, then back to the brush. Well, let's create a moon here. You can hold your pen in place for perfectly curved curves. And let's also create some cloud shapes. And also here. Then over here, let's create a pot. Just a simple shape like this. And then there will be some flowers. First, you can just create some circles like this for the placement. And then you can start tidying them up, adding the petals. But it's handy to first create the circles just for the placement. You can also tidy up the curtains a bit, add some folds. Also over here. Create some folds at the top as well. And here at the bottom. Then let's add a line here for like the windowsill. Something like this. And then over here I'd like a book. So first let's create a shape like this. It's like a 3D rectangle. And then you can create these curves. And on top there will be a coffee mug, or coffee cup. We can add some volume to the book just by adding an extra little line. And I will link my line art in the post, in the description. So you can always go and check that out and then use my line art as a reference. Then let's refine the curtains a bit by adding some of these folds. Also here. And in the sky, we can add some stars. And over here, and maybe one here. I think that looks nice. And of course we need some leaves here for our plant. We can first use the eraser to tidy this up a little bit. It's a bit messy over here. And also get rid of this. And then pick the brush and let's create some leaf shapes. We can fill in this area a bit more. And then over here, just very simple shapes. And maybe one over here. This looks like a nice plant. Maybe refine the book a bit more. Like I said, be sure to check out my line art in case you want to use that as a reference. Or of course, you could also just create a screenshot. But now we got a nice sketch. So once you have your sketch, you can start creating the line art, the clean version of this scene. And we'll do that by lowering the opacity of our sketch layer. You can set it to like 30%, then tap the plus for a new layer on top. And for the brush that I always like to use in this case is the Studio Pen. It's part of the old library, so you need to go back to libraries here and then to the classic library, and then under inking you will find the Studio Pen. For some reason I have multiple and it's called Studio Pen 2, but you need the Studio Pen. You can just use black, and the opacity of the brush should be at 100%, and the size I'll set that to 10%. And now we are just going to follow all of the lines. And in case you are working on something that is symmetrical, what you could do is turn back Drawing Assist. Turn that back on by tapping the layer and turning on Drawing Assist. Or you can just make it symmetrical yourself. You don't have to use that, but it can be handy in some cases. Now we're just going to follow those lines and create a tidy line art layer. You can extend that line a little bit with some low pressure, maybe not too much. And then we have the front going down like this. And don't worry, you can always use undo, of course. Doesn't have to be right in one go. And then you'll just follow all of these lines until you end up with something like this. And now that you have your lines, you can turn off your sketch layer. And we can also turn off that center line. We can go to the wrench, then to canvas, turn off the drawing guide. And now it's time to start coloring and to let that magic happen. I hope you're having fun so far creating your illustration with a cat. If you would like to draw another cat, then you will love the tutorial that I have dropped this week at Patreon, in which we will create this girl with her white cat. But of course at Patreon you won't just find this tutorial, but more than 250 Procreate tutorials, and they range from beginner levels to more advanced levels with a super wide variety of subjects. So I will leave a link for you down in the description in case you want to check that out. Would be great to see you there. But now let's continue with this project. So what we'll do is we'll make a new layer, we'll tap the plus, and we'll drag that underneath our line art layer. And we are going to fill that with the third color. And I have made multiple options here. I'm going to work with these top 4, but you can also make a combination of the second row or third row, or combine colors, go for yellow and this blue, for instance, as long as you go for one of these on the left for the highlights and one of these colors for the shadows. So I'll use the top ones, and we'll start with this third color and drop it onto the canvas. And then next we'll make a new layer on top. We'll tap the plus, and then we are going to create highlights, and we'll start with the second color. So that's the darker version of the highlight. And I first want to fill in the sky. So let's tap this line art layer and then turn on reference. And now on this layer, we can fill the sky. We can just drop in the color, use continue filling, and then just tap these areas. We can also fill in these stars and the clouds and the moon. So everything here is pink. And then we'll turn off reference here at the top, and we'll continue on this layer with a brush, just so that it has more of a real coloring page feel. So for the brush, we'll go back to the libraries and then to the Procreate library, and then go to the gouache brushes and use the Night Heron brush. Now the opacity of the brush is at 100%, and for the size you can play around a bit. I'll set it to 5% now. And now we are going to imagine where the light is hitting. Now the cat will be lit like around the edges. There will be this rim light. So we'll just go around the edges of the cat. And you can see that this brush gives a nice texture. So we'll just go around the edges, creating that rim light. And also on the tail, some light. Something like this. Then we also have the curtains. They will be lit here on the side because the light is coming from the window. We can add some lines here. And also on that bow. And over here. Just along these fold lines. There'll also be some light here on this wall. We can add some pink. Here at the top, that underside here. And also here, maybe not too thick. And of course you can also play around with the size of your brush. Then we have the other curtain, this side. Along the folds. And for the bow, side here. Let's also lighten up this damp. And here this side of the curtain. Also here, like the little inside of the cup. And also the side of the cup here. Then the top of the book here. Yeah, let's also color this area and here. And then of course there will also be light on the floor, but the cat and the book are blocking the light a bit. So it's just this area. And over here, the pot is blocking the light a bit. So we'll color this in, and let's light up the side of the pot. And also some of these flowers. Let's make the brush a little bit smaller. Let's go for 3%. Lightening up some of these edges of the flowers and the leaves. This one, maybe here a little bit. And maybe we can also light up this edge. Then we'll go even lighter. We'll add another layer. We'll tap the plus, and then we'll go for the first color. And then for instance, we can make the moon lighter. And we can add some light parts to these stars. Maybe just the upper left like this. And we can lighten up the edges of the clouds, following those curves. Also here. So it already looked good with just the two colors, but adding some like different values, that will make it look even better. Here we can add a light edge. So we're just adding the brightest highlights. And if you would be working with real markers, you would be working the other way around. You would have to start with the light color, or with just one pass, and then work on the darker areas. So it actually is a bit easier doing this digitally. So just along the edges, we already have these highlights. We just need to add a little bit on the edges. Also for the cat, we can add a brighter highlight around the edge. And then for the curtains, just the area closest to the window. So you don't have to add this extra highlight everywhere. And then also on this edge. And maybe we can lighten up this a bit more too. So now we have our light. Now we can also add some darker shadows. Let's go to this layer, then tap the plus, and then pick the darkest color, the fourth color. And for instance, we can darken the window. You could also fill this in by setting the line art layer to reference again, and then dropping it in. But I kind of like coloring it by hand, just so that we also get a little bit of texture. We can also darken this and add some deeper shadow on some parts of the curtain. Like over here, this is a shadow area, deeper shadow area. Also here it is leaf. So let's color that in. We can also deepen this shadow on the floor and add some deeper shadow on the pot. And also on the undersides, lower parts of the flowers, we can also add some extra shadow. And on the in-between parts, something like this. And let's also darken this front part. That's definitely a shadow. Just coloring it in by hand. And let's add an extra deep shadow here. Cast by the book. And a deeper shadow on the cup. And here on the inside. You can also deepen the shadow that is cast by the cat here. And on the curtain. Just on the side. Maybe an extra little fold here. And we can also add a deeper shadow like on the inside of the cat. Just following that shape a little bit like this and then coloring that in. Oh, and of course we also need to darken this part of the window frame. Forgot about that part. And here at the top we can darken the top part. And that's it. With just 2 colors, you have created an amazing moody scene. I hope you have enjoyed this technique. Be sure to also try out the other colors or try this out with other coloring pages or illustrations. And be sure to share your result. I would love to see it, and I would love to see you next time. Thank you for watching.